Hi, I'm Paul. We're going to do an ACT practice English test. 75 questions, directions. In the passages that follow, you will find underlined words and phrases. In the column to the right, there are alternatives to the underlined wording. For most questions, choose the option that expresses the idea most effectively, conforms to the standards of conventional English, or has wording consistent with the tone and style of the passage. If you think the original underlined wording is best, pick no change. For some problems, you will need to read a question about the underlined portion and pick the best answer to the question. Other problems may ask about portions of the passage or the entire passage. These questions will be indicated by a numbered box. Be sure to consider any relevant context surrounding the question in determining your answer. All right, let's begin. Personal finance. Learn to manage one's personal finances is an important lesson. Okay, the tense of the verb, the form of the verb doesn't sound right there. Learning to manage one's personal finances is an important lesson. So why don't we go with that? Show answer. The most important lesson one should learn in high school. These other choices don't really work here. Your, his, her, their, those don't work. So let's go with no change. But unfortunately, it is one of the things least frequently teaching. No, we need another form of the verb there. It is one of the things least frequently taught. Okay. My high school principal organized a personal finance guest speaker forum that made me think about some things I had not considered. One speaker worked in mortgage banking, and she mentioned how it had become more difficult to apply for home loans after the housing crisis. Yeah, I mean, that is a pretty, it's a pretty long sentence. Which of the following, I see, which of the following would not be acceptable? Okay, good. That's going to make it a little bit easier. Yeah, you can't just run the whole sentence together like this, or two sentences. You could use a semicolon as in answer A. You can't use answer B, just putting a comma in there. That's called a comma splice, where you just take two sentences and connect them with a comma. You'll see that on ACT tests, guaranteed. Probably multiple times, comma splices. You can't do that. Using a dash would work, as in C, and then, using a period and just starting a new sentence. But the only thing that's not going to work there is B. Okay, 5 is after the housing crisis. She had become more difficult to apply for home loans. Omit. Well, I wouldn't omit it because it's providing important information. Apply to home loans for these. It's unclear what that's referring to. And then B is kind of overdoing it a little bit. So why don't we just go with no change. Lenders want borrowers to have good credit ratings and money available for down payment in a home. Actually, the correct way of saying that is you want to have a down payment on a home. Or you could say a down payment for a home, but that's not one of the choices. The other choices don't work. So we will say you need to have a down payment on a home. Once I'm done with college, I'll do my best to save a little bit here and there so I can have a nest egg that I can use for a home. Writer would like to place the word eventually in the preceding sentence. Which of the following would not be a good place to put it? After the word here, I will do my best to save a little bit here eventually and there. Yeah, that's not good. That's not going to work. I mean, you could read the rest of these if you want to, but A is so terrible that I don't think we need to read the rest of them. Okay. Additional speaker was an investment advisor. No. Further speakers, no, it's not. See, B and C are plural, and investment advisor is not plural. So what we want to say is another speaker was an investment advisor. He discussed many of the different options available for investors, ranging from gold coins to savings accounts. I really liked the analogy he used about why having a diverse portfolio makes sense. Well, what is the analogy? If you have one big window and throw a brick at it, the whole window shatters. If you have several smaller windows, a brick can only destroy one of them while the rest remain intact. Okay. Yeah, that's an analogy. Which of the following would not be an acceptable alternative? Illustration, yeah, you could call it an illustration, or you could call it an example. He used an example. He used a comparison is good. He used a specimen, C, specimen. That doesn't make sense. That is not an acceptable alternative. All right, so we've read ahead here a little bit. Let's see, if you have one big window and throw a brick at it, the whole window shatters. If, as a result of shattering the window, that doesn't really work. If, on the other hand, I think on the other hand is a good transition. I mean, you could just use if, but it's a little awkward. I mean, I think a transition is better. I don't think you want to run the transition all together as in answer C, but you could say if, on the other hand, you need a contrasting transition here. So let's go with B. A brick can only destroy one. The writer would like to insert an introductory phrase in the following sentence. Okay. So it can only destroy one of them, the rest remain intact. Don't invest in only one thing, so that if that item falls apart, the other items will still survive. Which would be the best option? In contrast doesn't work because we're not looking for a contrast. We are looking for, I'm seeing a couple here that I sort of like. So don't have one big window, have several small windows. For example, don't invest in, but that's not really the example. He's already given, the example. Consequently, it's not, it's not terrible. Consequently, as a consequence of bricks and windows, I don't think it's as good as just saying, in other words, don't invest in only one thing. So go with B. Show answer. You know, some of those were close enough. Why don't we look at the explanation here? This is not really very good feedback, is it? Extended analogy about diversification. This is not directly stated, so connecting a sentence that does explicitly clarify it can best be done by stating in other words. Yeah, I was hoping it would say what was less effective about the other answers, but it doesn't. Okay. Well, let's go ahead then. We are now on number 12. To have this advice eventually, I plan on taking it to heart by... That doesn't really make sense. So let's rule out no change. I plan having this advice by heart to... Well, that doesn't make sense either. I plan on taking this advice to heart by eventually having a highly diversified portfolio. Okay, that's not bad. Eventually having this advice to... Okay. These alternatives are all pretty bad. So let's go with C. All right. The most interesting speaker was an insurance agent that told. Okay, an insurance agent is a person. So you want to say an insurance agent who told. Well, D is using plural, but we're looking for an interesting speaker, not plural. So let's rule out D. Let's rule out A because an insurance agent is a person, not a thing, so that is not correct. You want to say who. You don't want to say whom. An insurance agent, whom told. No, that doesn't work. So let's go with insurance agent who told some more stories. Okay. About people who did not have adequate insurance coverage. I already knew that I should have car insurance. I had no idea about renters or disability insurance. When I go to college, I plan on renting an apartment. Having renter's insurance will protect me against any theft or damage to my personal property. All right. When I go to college, I plan on renting an apartment having renter's insurance. No, it doesn't come with the apartment. That's not going to work. When I go to college, semicolon, that's not going to work. If you're going to use a semicolon, you need to have a complete sentence on both sides of the semicolon. So you can't do that. When I go to college, I plan on renting. No, that doesn't work either. It looks like no change is the best option here. When I go to college, I plan on renting an apartment. Having renter's insurance will protect me against. Okay, I don't think a dash there is the best thing. But I don't know. It's better than anything else. So let's go with A. Okay. Also, when I have a full-time job after college, I will look into disability insurance, assuming that my employer doesn't provide this type of coverage. Given that all are true, which of the following would provide an explanation most parallel to the style and content of justification found earlier in the paragraph? Okay, well, the kind of thing that we're looking for is, I got this advice and here's how I'm going to use it to help me. So I wouldn't go with no change. Assuming my employer doesn't provide it. I wouldn't go with, in the very unlikely case that I'm to become a victim. I think B is good, so that a prolonged illness doesn't lead me to financial catastrophe. Okay, so that states how disability insurance will help the author. D, if I'm fortunate enough to find a job. No. So, let's go with B and show the answer. All right. All right, so we are on to another passage, Cinco de Mayo. Okay. Cinco de Mayo. If you ask the average American what it is that Cinco de Mayo celebrates, one will likely say, well, the average American. One doesn't really work as a pronoun for that. We is plural, and we don't want plural. You. No, the only thing that works here is he or she as a pronoun for the average American. All right. He or she will likely say the independence of Mexico and an excuse for everyone to party. Well, all right, we got a little bit of a problem here. Party to me is a noun, but I guess we're at the point where, to use party as a verb, to me is not standard English. But maybe we have reached a point where it is standard English. The problem here is, if you are looking at questions and two or more of the answers are really synonymous, then they both got to be wrong. If two answers mean the same thing and there isn't really any difference between the two answers, you can't pick one of the answers and not pick the other answer. They've both got to be wrong. So we have like B, an excuse for everyone to celebrate in a festive manner. C, enjoy a celebration. That's the same thing. And D is really the same thing too, although it's pretty awkward. Experience enjoyable merrymaking. Nobody talks that way. To me, the best way to say it is an excuse for everyone to enjoy a celebration. But I can't pick that one because it's just so close in meaning to B that I feel like they both got to be wrong. And so we have to pick no change, even though I don't encourage you to use words that are commonly used as nouns and convert them into verbs, like party. But in this case, I don't know what else to do. All right. Although the 5th of May is a day of Mexican pride, it is not a commemoration of Mexican independence, That is on September 16th. Okay. It's all right. What else can we do? It is not a commemoration of Mexican independence, that is on September 16th. No, a comma is not a strong enough separator there. Independence, that is a no. Just running the whole thing together is not going to work. It is not a commemoration of Mexican independence, semicolon. That could almost work, but then we've taken out that is on September. Now we just have, after the semicolon, we have is on September 16th. Again, semicolons, you've got to have a complete sentence on both sides of the semicolon. That will come up more than once on ACT tests. So really the best choice we have here is just to leave it the way it is. Okay. Rather, it is a celebration of the triumph of a vast overmatch. Well, okay, so all of the answers have some form of the word vast and overmatched, but the best way to say it is that you had a vastly overmatched army, which is answer C. After the Mexican-American War in the 1840s, following it, Mexico was left greatly weakened. Okay, so it's redundant. You can just say after the war, Mexico was left greatly weakened. We don't need anything else there following as a consequence. Don't need it. So just omit the underlined portions. Too many words saying the same thing. 21. Since the United States was engulfed in its own civil war, and the question is, which of the following would not be an acceptable alternative? Well, involved. Involved is fine. The United States was involved in a war. The United States was consumed in a war. I don't think that's very good. The United States was submerged in a war. I don't think that's very good either. The United States was entangled in a war. I think B and C are both pretty bad. Engulfed is not particularly good. I guess, if the United States could be engulfed in a war, it could be submerged in a war. They both, are really referring to being, underwater. That's not good. But then consumed, usually when we talk about something being consumed, we're talking about it being eaten or destroyed. Neither one of those applies. So the question is, which one of these is less bad? I'm going to make an admission here. I don't think engulfed is a good word. I don't think submerged is a good word. And I don't think consumed is a good word either. So, which one is the worst? I want to say submerged is the worst. Oh, gosh. Well, I guess we can see the explanation, but just because submerged is almost like literally being underwater. Engulfed is somewhat, metaphoric in being underwater, and consumed, but then consumed is also almost literally like being eaten or being destroyed. I'm I'm going to go with that, and then we can see the explanation. Submerged. Okay. It's a terrible question. Submerged is used to discuss going underwater. Well, yeah, well, what is engulfed, used for? What is consumed used for? All right. I can't, it's not a good question. Just hope for better questions on the real test. What's the next one? The French Empire saw an opportunity to, oh no, we already did this one. Engulf. Okay, the French knew that they would not be able to intervene. That's not really the way you say that. The United States, as you said, that it would not be able to intervene. Despite having what was arguably the strongest army in the world at the time and having a roughly 2-to-1 numerical advantage, the Mexicans were able to, okay, here's what's wrong with that. If you have an introductory phrase like that, an introductory, what we call a modifier, followed by a comma, whatever comes after the comma has to be whatever this phrase is referring to. Now, what the phrase is referring to is having the strongest army in the world and having a 2-to-1 numerical advantage. That is followed by the Mexicans. But it doesn't refer to the Mexicans. That phrase refers to the French. So what comes after the comma has to be the French. And we have two options here. 1, B, the French were defeated by the Mexicans. That's good. The French were victims of the defeat conducted by the Mexicans. That's a really awkward way to say that. So we need to go with B. I mean, this phrase right here, the Mexicans were able to defeat the French, it's fine, except that you can't put it right after a modifier that is referring to the French army. Okay, so let's go with B. Although the French were eventually able to take over Mexico, it only, hang on. Okay, although the French were eventually able to take over Mexico, they only managed to hold it for a few years. That seems fine. What else do we have? Okay, again with the semicolon. If you put a semicolon in there, you do not have a complete sentence before the semicolon. Therefore, we can rule out B. Although the French were able to take over Mexico, that's not the, no, that's not the right use of a colon either. Although the French were able to take over Mexico, no, you need some kind of separator there, like a comma. A comma is fine, and then you don't need to say the French again. We've already said the French here, so it's fine the way it is. All right. The victory at the Battle of Puebla played no small part in weakening and delaying the French conquest. Okay, it's not bad. What else do we have? Wearying and wilting. No, those aren't good. Sagging is not good. Hurting, stopping, and discouraging. Well, it's too many words. All these are, not really on point. They're just they're awkward. Weakening and delaying is fine. It's a more direct way of saying it. So let's go with no change. All right. The impact of Cinco de Mayo should not be overlooked by Americans. Oops, next question. The French did not want to stop at Mexico. They hoped to build a another wide-ranging empire. The colon after Mexico is okay. The colon after A is no good. The French did not want to stop at Mexico, They hoped to build a wide-ranging empire. That's good. They hoped to build a widely ranged empire. No, widely ranged is not the right way to say that. They did not want to stop at Mexico, for they hoped to build a wider ranging. No. It's a little bit better. You could, it's not a total comma splice because you do have a conjunction in there. But they hope to build a wide-ranging empire. That is the most direct way of saying that. Okay. Had the Mexican army not defeated the French, it is likely that the French had been able to. No, you want to say something like they would have been able to, which is one of the choices. They would have been able to. It is likely that the French would have been able to provide aid to the Confederacy. Okay, let's go with that. With their strong army and navy, yeah, none of these other words make sense. Strongly, strength, going strong. No, it's no change. With their strong army and navy. French help could have been as significant to the Confederacy effort. You kind of need a possessive there. I mean, informally, you could say the Confederacy effort, but it's going to be better to have a possessive here, Confederacy's effort. Let's go with that. People of Mexican descent. The question is, which of the following would not be an appropriate replacement for the underlined word? People of Mexican heritage, people of Mexican backgrounds, people of Mexican decline, people of Mexican origin. Well, this is obviously, you'd have to have a complete misunderstanding of what descent means here to to miss this, but decline is not a good answer here. Right. The writer would like to insert a conclusion to this sentence that best ties its ideas together. Given that all are true, which of the following would best accomplish the goal? All right, well, by understanding the true history of the holiday, many Americans should feel a sense of gratitude that the Mexicans stand against the French in the 1800s helped the U.S. achieve national unity. Boy, this is going to be a long sentence. Giving Cinco de Mayo a respect that is shared by people around the world. No, it does. There's nothing in the passage about any other countries around the world. So let's eliminate that. Ensuring that Cinco de Mayo would be celebrated on May 5th. That's just silly. Making Cinco de Mayo just as much an American holiday as a Mexican one. probably overstates the point, but you know, it's not bad. It's usable. Indirectly contributing to the United States having 50 states. Now it really has nothing to do with having 50 states. So I think this would be the best option. Good. Okay, new passage. The science of self prior to the last half-century endeavors to pinpoint and explore. Oh, I see. So what they want to say is prior to the last half-century, pause, endeavors to pinpoint and explore. Okay. So, yeah, a comma would be good. A comma, one of the uses for a comma is, it's a slight pause in the sentence and a natural pause in the sentence. You can read these things, I don't want to say out loud, but, read them in your head and see where, natural pauses occur. So you want to say prior to the last half century, comma, endeavors to pinpoint. We don't need a comma after half. We don't want to run the whole thing together like this. Actually, the only difference between this and no change is that they took the hyphen out. So that's got to be wrong. So this is good. Prior to the last half century, endeavors to, okay. See explanation. No, we don't need to see that. Endeavors to pinpoint and explore the nature of one's self. It's not bad. I mean, maybe you could do it with one word. Let's see what our options are here. Endeavors to precisely locate the position. No. It's too many words. ACT tests like conciseness as a general rule. Not using a lot of words when you can use a smaller number of words. So B is too many words. C is not enough words. Half-century endeavors to look the nature of oneself doesn't even make sense. Endeavors to travel and tell the nature of oneself, that doesn't make sense. Travel the nature of oneself doesn't make sense. So let's go with A. Okay. Oh, yeah, we need the correct form of the verb here. This verb is supposed to match endeavors. Endeavors, wait a minute. Endeavors, yes, okay. So it has to be plural, and it has to be past tense. Because we're saying prior to the last half century. And so the only thing that's going to work is were. Were confined to the softer the softer disciplines, philosophy, literature, and psychoanalysis, conjectural maxims like Descartes' cogito ergo sum, Rimbaud's j'ai es un autre, pardon my pronunciation on these, as well as Freud's equivocal trinity of the id, ego, and superego, remains to this day among the most well-known. Well, okay. Again, the This is a singular noun, and it's supposed to match this. Conjectural maxims like this, and this. So we need a plural. We need a plural noun. Remain to this day. Okay. Among the most well-known principles, that is not the right use of principles. That would be like the principal of a school, or principal as in primary, foremost, but a principle as in a maxim is like this. However, owing to some remarkable recent breakthroughs in neurology, the first truly comprehensive theory of mind is to make a recognized, well, there is not going to work, because this is singular. Theory of mind is, that's singular. There, that has to be singular. Is to make a recognized form. Well, I mean, it seems to me like we could just go with its formal. Yeah, the other ones don't. Is to make the official formal debut. Well, the comma after official is not right. Is to make a recognized. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's try. Let's go with that. All right. Is to make its formal likely debut. That's odd. Can we admit that? Oh, I see. Where is the best placement for the word likely? Not where it is now. I would say it is likely to make its formal debut. So that would be after the word is. Okay. A series of neuroscientific studies suggests that a region of the brain near the, this brings up a good point. There's a lot of words here that, you may have never seen before. Don't worry about that. You don't need to know the meaning of these words. It's just grammar. I mean, just if you can recognize them as being nouns or verbs or adjectives, that's fine. But don't worry and say, it's like, oh my God, I don't know what a Sylvian fissure is. I don't know what somatosensory means, blah, blah, blah. It's not important. We can do it without knowing any of that. A series of neuroscientific studies suggest that a region of the brain near the something known as the TPJ may just be the place where the self itself resides. Okay. What are the other options? Where itself resides. There's no indication of what that refers to, so we can't use that. Where yourself itself, no, not yourself. We're talking about self. So it's different. Where you reside, okay, that the The verb doesn't match the pronoun there. There's a problem here with that comma after itself, which is wrong. And I'm going to assume that it's a typo and that we are supposed to say no change. Why would there be a comma there? It may just be the place where the self itself resides. Yeah, there shouldn't be a comma there, but the other choices just don't work. So let's go with no change. As a bridge between the temporal parietal lobes, TPJ plays a certain role, something, something. Okay. What is surprising is the extent to which this integration, I need the next question. Effects, that's not the right word. Effect is normally going to be a noun. When would it be? You could say affect a change. That would work as a verb. But as far as affects our sensation, that's wrong. It's got to be affect with an A. Affects our sensation. This integration affects our sensation. Yeah. What is surprising is the extent to which this integration affects our sensation. Yes. Not your sensation. Because, now all of a sudden you're changing the way you address the reader here into the second person, which is not going to be right. Our feeling of perceiving the world from a particular position and perspective. All right. In Zurich, a team of scientists managed to disrupt and experimentally manipulate healthy subjects' capacity for self-location. All right, so what we need here is to get the apostrophes in the right place. So capacities, okay, we'll use that. Healthy subject, it's a plural. So if we want to use the possessive of a plural, the apostrophe would go after subjects. Subject apostrophe S suggests a single subject. And so what we want is subjects plural followed by capacities. Okay. Where do we leave off? Capacities for self-location using a combination of video projection, video tactile influence, while simultaneously collecting neuroimaging for sophisticated robotic technology. Okay, that it doesn't sound bad. What are the alternatives? Visual tactile influence. I mean, well, okay. For example, using a combination of video while simultaneously collecting information. They disrupt and experimentally manipulate their capacity for self-location. While simultaneously, I don't see a better choice than that. I mean, it's a little puzzling without really knowing what they're doing. Visual tactile in simultaneously, in is not terrible. For, it's probably not so good. On, it's probably worse than 4. But while seems to be the best option here. Show answer. Okay. The ability to collect neuroimaging data is a result of exciting new technological development enabled the team to conclude that self-location processes are integrated almost exclusively in the TPJ. The writer is considering changing the underlined phrase out of its form as an acronym to its fully elaborated non-acronym form, that is, temporoparietal junction. Is that what it was called? Temporoparietal junction. Should the writer make this change? And the answer is no. You really only need to do this once, especially in just, a short piece like this, where it's referred to up here, temporoparietal junction, and then it gives the abbreviation TPJ. So from that point forward, we can just say TPJ. So it's going to be no. The writer assumes that readers will understand the term. No, they won't understand it. But no, because the author has previously clarified it in a way that can be used essay-wide. Subsequent research has involved studies of individuals who suffered damage to the TPJ. Such injuries, it turns out, are directly linked to so-called out-of-body experiences in which not only self-location, but often self-perception as well is interrupted. Further, and far less caustic than physical trauma, intermittent electrical stimulation of the area has also been implicated in producing out-of-body experiences. Okay. What are our choices here? However, far less caustic than physical trauma. Okay. Okay, let's look at D. Less caustic than physical trauma. It really does need some kind of a transition. Because we have one thing, we have injuries, and then we have electrical stimulation. Intermittent electrical. Okay. So it does need a transition, but it doesn't need, it's not a contrast. It's like in addition to, okay, so trauma causes this, and electrical stimulation causes this. So I don't think we want, however, on the other hand, those are contrasting transitions. Further is, in addition to, that's a better transition. So let's go with that. Okay. Electromagnetic disruptions to the area appear to impair individuals' ability to make moral decisions, impairing one's capacity for empathy. That is inextricably bound up in an understanding of the self. Oh, okay. Well, gotta get to the next question. Okay. It impairs one's capacity for empathy. We don't want the comma after is, because what they're trying to say is it's inextricably bound up in an understanding of the self. So no change is not an option here, because the comma after is wrong. Impairing one's capacity for empathy, a pause here is good, I think. Now B is wrong because empathy is singular and we're using a plural verb. We can't do that. And actually C is the same thing, plural verb. So we got to go with D, which is inextricably bound up. Okay. Though these breakthroughs are still in their infancy, to many neuroscientists, it seems only a matter of time before we get a new, more appropriate maxim to the litany of selfhood refrains, perhaps something along the lines of, and the writer wants to conclude with something written in Latin. Which of the following, with their respective translations, would provide the most consistent and logical conclusion? A, I have a passion. That does not make sense. I am a brain. I am a brain. Well, it's all right. Who are you? That's no good. Cerebrum ergo sum. Brain, therefore I am. Well, it doesn't read very well in English. I don't think any of these are particularly good, but it's going to come down to B or D. Now B, if you read it in English, it is good. Is there a translation of the Descartes here? No. Okay. So the Descartes cogito ergo sum is I think, therefore I am. Now that makes sense. Now if you read this in English, brain, therefore I am, it doesn't make sense. So we're going to come down to B or D, which are, boy, I am a brain. I am a brain. I mean, that's more of a parallel to this. The Rimbaud quote, I think that means I'm an author. I don't really like any of these. I think, putting myself in the place of a test author, the ACT is not expecting people to know Latin. D does parallel what they gave us earlier, which, as far as I can see, is the only reason for preferring one of these over another. I admit this is, something of a guess. It's not a good question. I'd like to know. In some cases, I would have liked to have been, part of the in the room as this question was being formulated. But all right. So let's go with D. And now let's get an explanation. It's the only option that focuses on the theme, that is where the self resides. You think so? It has nothing to do with the self. Unless I am refers to the self, but then you have that up here as well. So, okay. Bad question, but yeah. I guess, well, let me say this. This is from a Barron's, from Barron's. It's not an official ACT practice test, but Barron's is good. So if we had an official ACT practice test in front of us right now, maybe we wouldn't see questions like that. Maybe Barron's is to blame. But we've had at least two here that are just not very good questions. So as you take the ACT, just do what you can. Yeah, just do what you can. All right, farmers market. My family own. All right, family is a singular verb, although it would tend to mean like multiple people, but family is singular. So my family owns small fruit and vegetable farm. Okay. In upstate New York, people often ask us, how can we survive as the cat out of the bag? Hope we have a better choice than that. Which would best express the idea that the family farm must compete as a small business in a large marketplace? So then they give us, several cliches here. Here, a cat out of the bag doesn't work. Early bird catching the worm, little fish in the big pond. That's what we're capturing there, a small business at a large marketplace. We have found our niche through innovative marketing and agricultural practices. Okay. Realized that we cannot possibly compete. Realized is not the right form of that verb. Realize is not right. Upon the realization of that, we realize that we can't compete. Yes. Okay. We realize we can't compete against a large agricultural operation that can purchase the best farming equipment and make mass quantities of food to sell at supermarkets. The writer is considering deleting the underlined portion. Should the writer make the deletion? So if it's deleted, it would just say that can purchase the best farming equipment and make food to sell at supermarkets. Well, I wouldn't delete it because it provides a helpful detail to illustrate the writer's message. Yeah. Again, it just reinforces it. Look, we're a small business, and we can't do this. We can't purchase the best farming equipment, and we can't produce mass quantities of food. So let's go with don't remove it. It provides a helpful detail. Let's see. Firstly. All right. Okay. Whoa. Did I skip something here? Okay. So we do what we can, and we do it as well as anyone in our area. Okay. Firstly, we have set up a community. It's awkward. Primarily, no. Because if we glance ahead a little bit here, first this, second this. Okay, so they're going to say, we do what we can, we do it as well as anyone else. They're going to itemize their innovative practices. So we have, firstly, in the very first place, that's too many words. Second, we don't even have a choice on that. So if you want to, this is a little awkward, but I suppose if you wanted to go through and say firstly, secondly, which they don't. So in order to be consistent with what's going on here, we've got to pick first. So first, we have set up a community-supported agricultural exchange where local residents earn a share of the year's final crop by both spending an annual fee and putting in at least 8 hours of labor on the farm. For someone who has a sedentary office job, working in a field with one's hands does not feel like work at all. It is a chance to exercise in the great outdoors. So what kind of a separator do we need here? What kind of a boundary? This is like no boundary at all. It doesn't feel like work at all. It's just, so now you have a complete run-on sentence. B is no good. It does not feel like work at all. It is a chance to exercise in the great outdoors. No, because these are both complete sentences. Working in a field doesn't feel like work. It's a chance to exercise. Those are complete sentences. You can't separate them with a comma. That's called a comma splice, and it is wrong. Now, what is this? It does not feel like work at all okay, so that's no good. So this is fine. A dash as a boundary there is appropriate. The writer would like to insert the following in the preceding paragraph. Why would people want to spend their free time doing our farm work for us? Where should it be placed? Well, they're going to put in 8 hours. And then let's pose the question, why would people want to spend their free time doing farm work? And then we can provide the answer. Well, if you're just sitting at a desk all day, it doesn't feel like work. It's a chance to exercise. So it should be right in the middle here at point 2. Second, we participate in several farmers markets in New York City. We completely cut out the middleman by taking our produce directly to neighborhoods where the residents want nothing and the best. Nothing and the best. I think what that should be is nothing but the best organic fruits and vegetables. We coordinate our harvesting period with that of the opening times of the market without having to store and refrigerate it. Okay, let me get to the next question. All right. We coordinate our harvesting period with that of the opening times of the market. There's too much verbiage there, and it sounds like the opening times of the markets have a harvesting period. So we can't use that at all. We coordinate our harvest times with the times the markets open. Okay, it's not bad. Let's hold on to that. We coordinate our harvests with the open markets, so we can immediately take our food to the market. Okay. We coordinate our opens with those of the harvest. All right, let's rule that out. So we're down to B and C. We coordinate our harvest times with the times the market's open. We coordinate our harvests with the open markets. Okay. I don't think B is right. It sounds like, you know, I mean, when I think of a harvest, I mean, the original one says our harvesting period. Okay, so I'm not thinking of a harvest as something that happens at like, 5 o'clock in the morning or whenever the market's open. I'm thinking of coordinating the harvest with the open markets. It's something that's not happening at a particular time of day. So why don't we go with C on this? Okay. Which one are we on now? Oh, 55. Oh, okay. This is not only good for our business, but there's too many commas in there. This is not only good for our business, but it is good for the environment. Is this 55? Okay, this is not only good for our business, but it is good for I gotta think about this. This is not only good to our business. No, that's not right. This is not only good business. No, that's not right. It's not only good. It's, oh, I see. Oh. This is C. Okay. I'm seeing something that isn't even there. This is not good for our business. Okay, so now we can throw out C. I really don't like the comma after the word but. This is not only good for our business, comma, but, comma. I don't think you need that comma there. But none of the answers is going to work. So we have to go with no change. Okay. Likewise. Okay, that's not a good transition. I think what we want is something like we had first this, second this, finally this. So let's go with that as a transition. We recently started a partnership with a French restaurant in Manhattan that uses us as a supplier. It is a great deal for us since they pay us premium prices for unusual fruits and vegetables and mention our farm to their customers. And it's a great deal for them since they can offer their diners food that is as fresh and delicious as humanly possible. For those which think, no, again, we need, we're talking about people, not a thing. So we can't say which. Let's say for those who think that innovation can only take place in Silicon Valley, know that our little farm in the Hudson Valley will continue to innovate away. All right. What is the question? If the writer had been assigned to write an essay that provides examples of how one small business has dealt with changes in the marketplace, would this essay meet the goal? I would say yes, because it provides an in-depth account of innovative business approaches, yes. Because it discusses how a farm has grown to have the greatest revenue share, well, it doesn't say that. So yes, A. All right. Lies from my childhood movies. Okay. So it's kind of a downer of a title, but growing up, anybody believe in the happy ending? Filmmakers created. Okay, so I think what we want to say is, growing up, everyone believes in the happy ending. We're rolling a happy song with characters dancing in the background. But how did the stories really end? The author is considering deleting the underlined sentence. Oh, I see. How did the stories really end? It's hard to remember since childhood was so long ago. Well, but that's completely off topic. Should the author delete that sentence? Yes, because it is irrelevant. I mean, it's not even talking about, well, so you have like movies made from, stories, fairy tales. How did the stories really end? It's hard to remember since childhood was so long ago. I don't know. I don't know. Irrelevant is a good way to put it here. So yeah, that's it doesn't help anything to have that there. Whoops, I need to go back and show. It sounds like what's going to happen is the author will compare the fairy tale or the movie ending with like the real ending in the story, in the fairy tale, the way it was written, which the author possibly doesn't know. I mean, who knows? I don't know. Going on too long with this, but it's irrelevant in any case. The statistical possibilities that all of them ended up happy are extremely small. I don't even like the author's attitude, to be honest with you. What is the real story of those childhood favorites? In The Little Mermaid, Ariel gets to become a human, find the prince, marry the prince, and live happily ever after. All right, we just got to get the right verb tense here. The original version wasn't quite as fluffy and involved much more softness and tenderness. We may need to go a little bit further to get the context of this. Rather than swimming to shore with her newly transformed legs, the evil witch, see, this is, you actually have a dangling modifier there. I mean, it's not the evil witch swimming to shore. Rather than swimming to shore with her newly transformed legs, the evil witch rips the mermaid's fin in two. The prince comes upon her bleeding, finds it entertaining, and forces her to dance for him. Okay, so now we can probably answer the question. It's not more peace and quiet. It's not more seafaring activity. It appears to be gore and heartbreak. Okay. Let's see. Forces her to dance. Oh, no. We got to back up here. The evil witch rips the mermaids. So it has to be possessive like this. The prince comes upon her bleeding, finds it entertaining, forces her to dance for him. But this doesn't diminish her love of her perfect prince. Which of the following would not be acceptable? Forces her to dance for him, semicolon. However, this doesn't diminish it. That's fine. The semicolon is fine there because you do have complete sentences on both sides. Forces her to dance for him, period. Strangely, this doesn't diminish her love. That's fine. Forces her to dance for him, comma. Then this doesn't diminish. That doesn't sound good. Him, semicolon. Nevertheless, this, yeah. So I guess you could make the observation here that these two are almost exactly the same. So they either have to be both right or both wrong. So in this case, they're both going to be wrong. And in other words, they're both going to be acceptable. And so we have to go with C. This doesn't diminish it. The prince is betrothed to another woman, but to prevent herself from being turned, well, we just got to fix the verb here, from being turned into sea foam. By the witch, the mermaid has to convince the prince to marry her. Although Anderson had no appreciation of the happy ending, she fails and is told to kill him. All right, so although is not the right transition there. You would want to say because he had no appreciation of the happy ending, or since he had no appreciation of the happy ending. She fails and is told to kill him. She choosed to believe and not kill him. Well, what we need here is, this is all written in present tense, so we can't go to past tense, obviously. This is past tense. No change is past tense. She chose is past tense. She chooses is present tense. To believe and not kill him. Her plan backfires because This is hard to read. Her plan backfires because clear and obvious love cannot prevail, and she has. Wait a minute. Let me get to the next question. Oh, I see. Her plan backfires because. Okay, so these adjectives are not applying to love. It's not like clear. Okay, because. So they're not talking about clear and obvious love or obvious love. This is because obviously love cannot prevail. So you don't want to say clearly and obviously because it's redundant. They mean the same thing. So obviously love cannot prevail. Okay. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, originally by Victor Hugo, ends when Quasimodo saves Esmeralda, blah, blah, blah. The writer is considering changing the underlined word to ended, or maybe deleting it all together. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, originally by Victor Hugo, well, you can't take it out. The sentence doesn't make sense. And you can't change it to ended because the rest of this the rest of it is in present tense. So you have to leave it the way it is. Oops, forgot to show the answer. Okay. Hugo was not as kind to the characters in his story. At the conclusion of his, Esmeralda is hung publicly when being falsely accused. We could say while, which is the same as when. So those have both got to be wrong. I mean, you can't hang somebody as you're accusing them. She is hung publicly as a consequence of, yeah, I suppose so, but it's too many words. So the best way to say it is to just say after. She is hung publicly. Hung is actually not right either. You want to say hanged, actually. Paintings are hung, but people are hanged. I forgot to show the answer. Come on. Okay. Then, although she treated him terribly in life, Quasimodo goes to her grave, curls up by her body, and dies of starvation. That's actually a pretty good ending. Daniel P. Mannix. What? Oh, okay, so we're on to the next one here. Daniel P. Mannix, due to this, failed to understand the delicate psyche of a child. Daniel P. Mannix, using his considerable mental faculties. We can't pick that because we don't even know who the guy is. Daniel P. Mannix also failed to understand. Daniel P. Mannix, however, failed to understand. No, I guess, all these are examples of maybe children's stories that were not appropriate for children. I mean, I don't know. Hans Christian Andersen wrote fairy tales. The Hunchback of Notre Dame was not a children's story, and The Fox and the Hound. I mean, but we'll say also. He also failed to understand. I don't know why I've developed the habit of not showing the answer. The author of The Fox and the Hound didn't write the ending depicted in the movie, in which the hound realizes his brainwashing by his master and leaves the fox and his family alone. The real ending would probably permanently, we just need to fix the verb tense, would probably permanently damage a child psychologically. Oh my gosh. The hunter gasses the home of the foxes, killing the main character's wife and children. After this, a child dies from rabies. And then, if it isn't quite depressing yet, the fox drops dead of exhaustion after a lengthy chase. The writer would like to insert the word enough into the previous sentence, probably after depressing. Where is the best placement? After this, and if it isn't quite depressing enough, yeah, that seems like dead enough, child enough, this enough. Those don't make sense. Depressing enough. All right. And we're done. Submit. All right. So we're going to stop there for now, and that is the ACT English section.